This is going to be a quick video on how I sculpt eyes on a model horse. Starting off, I do Dremel down the faces and I use BB pellets for the eyeballs. So those little bead looking things are actually BB pellets. There's a few specific shapes that I do use. This is for the under eye. It's kind of a flat crescent moon almost, or a half circle in a way. And I always put that down first and cut off the edges where it's going to be overlapped by the top eyelid. I do roll out my tools to kind of smooth things out. And I use a lot of paintbrushes to really smooth out and combine a lot of the shapes. This is the top lid shape. It's kind of like a teardrop with a crink in it almost like really big eyebrows. The other shapes I use along the eyes are very specific to just what I see in the reference, and they're a little bit more literal, so I won't go through each one of these, but I put down all of the shapes first to try to get the basic layout and the almost most contrasty kind of look that I can get, and then kind of follow that along as I blend it all out. And this is how it should look when I have all of the pieces down. Now I keep everything very wet. I just use water, which I know some people have some issues with that. I kind of like how goopy and gritty it gets, so I don't use the alcohol that some people use, but it is just water. And basically my sculpting process is putting down these small shapes, blending them together to some degree while trying to keep those underlying shapes. I don't want to completely get rid of them, but I do use my tools and paintbrushes to kind of blend everything. I use this tool for kind of small marks to keep those details in there, and a lot of fiddling. It's honestly just a lot of fiddling back and forth. This here is the start of the eyelashes. I do kind of have a little piece of eyelash that I like to keep on the top of the eyes, so that's the start of that. And don't be afraid to use your fingers for kind of the larger pieces. I use it a lot more on the body of the horse, not as much on the face, but I will definitely use it for the bridge of the nose as well as kind of the cheek area. And yeah, sometimes I break horses. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. I'll fix that later. It's fine. It happens. You can kind of see here where it's pretty rough, and I do go in with my grossest nice brush that I have and really kind of dig into it to smooth these out. And I do try to keep the other side wet as well, because I know I'll be going to that next, so I just don't want it to dry out. And again, I kind of like that slimy, gross texture that Aves Epoxy can get, so a lot of my stuff stays pretty wet throughout the whole process. again, just a lot of fiddling. I will use the back of paintbrushes too, especially for that spot above the eye. But a lot of fiddling, and then some more marks, and then smoothing them out, and then more marks and smoothing them out. It's an endless cycle, really. And pretty soon you'll have one side that looks pretty good, and once I'm happy with it, unfortunately there are two sides of a horse, so you have to go and try to match it, so that's where it gets a little tricky. But this is all the same process, where it's tiny shapes that are then blended together somewhat roughly, adding in small lines again so I don't lose details or start the details that need to come in later, and a lot of smoothing and blending. I also will admit, this eye on this side, for some reason, the lower lid was really fighting me and it was not making the correct shape, so I do think I got it matched in the end, but it took a lot of fiddling on this round. So once you have two sides that you're really happy with, I always make sure I look at them head on and try to match them and just keep an eye on symmetry without being too symmetrical. Horses tend to be uneven. We're all natural creatures here. And of course, then more fiddling. So it's endless, really. At some point, you just have to give up. But it's just so many little fiddles. So that's a majority of it. And that is the final product. Now, in the next video, I will show you how I sculpt the nose. I always do the eyes and the nose separately. I tend to let them cure in between because I will definitely mess up the eyes and squish them some way. So I tend to do the eyes first and the nose second, and then I will combine in between on when both of them are cured, just to help protect the work. So keep an eye out for that video.